As myself and other artists have mentioned, art is a celebration of the human condition. Whether it's to honor our favorite shows and series, to celebrate our own cultural upbringings, and even just honor those who made so many sacrifices for us, art is a way to communicate that in ways that words can't necessarily do all the time. No matter if it's an Apple Pencil or a regular pencil, we have the ability to create something out of virtually nothing. Whether it's to retell stuff that we've experienced in our own lives, or create series that are pretty much out of this world. Whether it's a silly sketch or a well thought out series, each and every artist has a story to tell. And each sketch likely reveals something personal about the artists themselves and the circumstances that they find themselves in. I think artists and creative people in general tend to go through a journey when discovering their craft. They learn things about themselves that they never would have guessed otherwise. With art and other creative fields, we may be forced to deal with thoughts that we aren't exactly the most comfortable with. But that pain is the necessary part of any creative journey, or really any journey in our lives. It won't always be easy, but it will definitely be worth it, and you'll come out a different yet stronger person in the end. That said, it seems like these days the art community, at least online, seems quite pessimistic about pretty much anything. And I totally get it. Social media is pretty much ripping artists off. Even art programs aren't treating their creators with respect these days. It's easy to see why, because art is constantly getting stolen or traced or misused for dishonest practices. It's not like I don't understand why some artists might feel this way in general about posting and doing artwork, but I do feel like this attitude will actually hurt artists as a whole and lead to a constant doom spiral where even doing art in general just doesn't seem worth it for some people. As I mentioned in my Ergo Josh video, if artists, even professional artists, feel the need to turn to generative AI in order to get art done quicker, what does that say for the rest of the industry? Are they not confident enough in their own skills to do the work? And what does that mean if you're just starting out? I'm Ayasuna and I make videos, more specifically art videos. And today I kind of wanted to talk about the whole art community in general, because this is a troubling trend that I see pretty much everywhere on art social media. Whether that's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, even Tumblr. There seems to be a growing pessimism in general in the art space, and I kind of wonder why that is. Part of it, of course, is due to corporate greed. With companies getting cheaper and cutting more corners, artists are constantly being undervalued for their hard work, and that obviously leads to burnout and artists feeling like their work is just not good enough. I mean, historically speaking, artists are not really valued for their work. This was the case long before social media ever even existed. And that mainly stems from the whole professional side of things. That doesn't include the fact that some people just think art just isn't worth pursuing. While I obviously can't speak for other countries, I'm from America, and in a lot of places that I've lived, the arts were severely underfunded. For those who did want to pursue art as a career, there was likely limited options as far as where to turn to get resources, especially if you didn't live in a major city. Art itself is rarely taught in public schools these days, and even if it is, it likely isn't really any substitute for actual art education. You do better learning a bunch of stuff off of YouTube and Pinterest, or really any social media platform regarding art in some cases. This was the case for me growing up because I couldn't necessarily afford art classes. I wanted to pursue art as a career, but I didn't exactly know how to do that. A lot of the things that I learned I taught myself from various videos and images from the internet. Without those resources, I likely wouldn't have gotten to the point where I'm at right now. Even as an adult, outside of the internet, art classes are still not necessarily accessible to everyone anyways. In my case, many of the art classes that I was interested in were conducted during work hours, so that really didn't do me any good. That said, with the internet, you do now have the access to talk to pretty much artists from across the world, as well as agencies and any other creative resources. Any artistic ability that you wanted to learn is literally right at your fingertips. I mean, after all, the art community should be a place where you can come together to get support or just simply critiques on your own artwork in order to improve. You can come together and collab with pretty much, like I said, artists from across the globe and learn things that you might not have been exposed to in your own life. And that seems to be a net positive among all artists of any skill level. At least that was the intention when it came to the art community. With all these platforms coming together should be easier, shouldn't it? But as I said in a previous video, the art community seems as divided as ever. Everyone seems so quick to get the one up on each other that they lose sight of what's important, and that is their own artwork. Why the hell are y'all getting mad about how a certain person draws their own original character? I mean, as long as they're not drawing blatantly racist stereotypes, why does it matter how they draw their nose? Or how they draw a nose, or even if they draw a nose at all? Why does it bother you how a character is colored in a certain style or not? For artists genuinely looking to get constructive criticism on their work, it often leads to a round of bullying online. You don't really have the right to dox someone just because you think they might be tracing something. And more often than not, you likely are misrepresenting something or just saying something to get attention. While I'm not really talking about anyone in specific, I have noticed that the TikTok art community is one of the worst offenders here. You go on there wanting to show your artwork and get criticism for it, and then you just wake up one day and find out that you're being bullied because you didn't color a certain way, or you don't draw the face a certain way. Even professional artists are getting harassed by these chronically online children. All because they chose to draw something a certain way, or they just didn't draw the ship that you liked. I mean, I myself am a queer person. That said, I still do appreciate straight ships, and I'm not gonna go out my way to harass anyone who draws them. That's just cringe. There's literally trends on TikTok as well as other places about art styles that they tend to hate. And that leads to artists of any skill level being pretty much harassed online. It seems like every day y'all have something else to complain about instead of focusing on your own artwork. But for whatever reason you're insecure in your own life, so you're gonna go and bring down other people with you. Y'all claim to want to support beginner artists, but then get mad if they don't draw something a certain way. And then you harass them to the point of where they don't want to draw at all anymore. Well, obviously these corporations, as well as AI in general, do a lot of harm for the art community. A lot of the issues in the art community also are self-inflicted in my opinion. I mean, by definition, art is meant to be inclusive. While we all might not be able to speak the same language, art can help us communicate ideas that are important to us from pretty much any perspective. I understand that art can be a competitive field to get into, especially if you're a professional. I just don't get why we stoop so low to make a point. Like I hate to sound like a boomer and say that all social media is bad, but I really think it is harming the art community. Being an anonymous face on the internet just allows people to say some of the most heinous things. And of course, I know that's not a new thing. I've been on the internet for quite a while at this point. It's just heartbreaking to see some artists just give up because of some mean comments or doxing or really anything of that nature. I just feel in a world where artists are already undervalued, it makes no sense for us to tear each other apart. Especially over something as petty as a ship, or whether or not a character draws something the way that you like it. Like, the more I hear about this art lore drama, the more it really doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, of course, again, I know that any online community will eventually become toxic, if it doesn't already like that to start with. But now it really just seems like it's just vile. It's not fun to be around in those types of communities anymore. While I'm still quite a small creator myself, I at least have a community that doesn't deal with that negativity. And I want to keep that going as long as I can, of course. Any bad apples I'll be getting rid of on spot because I don't want that energy. I already deal with enough negativity in my own life, and I don't really want anyone else to feel that way. That said, on the other side, younger artists do need to realize that when someone is critiquing their work, they shouldn't really take that as an attack. Being able to understand when someone is being constructive and when someone's starting shit is important. I know younger artists are desperate for attention and to get their art out there and noticed, but not at the expense of your own mental health. Obviously, if someone is coming onto your page and saying stupid stuff, then yeah, you do need to block them, delete their message, and just not interact with them. It's not worth associating with those types of people. They only just are there to start drama. You shouldn't let them dictate whether or not you should be an artist. That's a personal decision that you decide for yourself. And of course, outside of a professional setting, no one should really be dictating what you can or can't draw. Art itself is an expression, and there really is no right or wrong way to draw something, especially if you're just starting out. Of course, if you are trying to improve, you will need to study form and anatomy and color and all that good stuff. For those that did get to go to art school or take art classes, I'm sure many of them complained about how their teachers didn't like their work because it was anime or something like that. But then they turn around and say the same toxic stuff to someone just starting out who doesn't have those resources. I mean, apart from drawing racist or PDF file types artwork, I don't think any artist should be bullied off the platform. And that goes for any platform, not just TikTok, of course. Nobody should be doxxed because they decide to draw a straight ship, or they decide to make their OC a bit on the chubbier side. Again, I know the internet can be a toxic place, but it wasn't always like this. At least not with this much prevalence in the circles that I'm around. Even on Instagram, it didn't used to be so toxic. I want to hope that most people were taught with the idea not to talk about others behind their back like that, but apparently that's just not commonplace everywhere. Like, I'm sorry I didn't intend for this video to be so negative or me to be ranting about this, but it really is getting on my nerves. If I had to deal with even a fraction of what youngers these days are going through, I likely would have quit myself a long time ago. Like, I get being realistic that your art likely won't blow up overnight as far as popularity is concerned, but you really don't need to be trashing someone because their art style is different, or not quote-unquote conventional enough for you. Art is about breaking conventions and what we think an artist has to be. We'll never get anywhere as a community if we keep doing this stupid stuff. Being a bully isn't really going to help anyone improve. It's just going to fragment the already broken art community. We can't say support real artists and then go harass people. If we can't be clear or firm about what we tolerate in the community, then of course we're going to be leading into more division. And more division, our work gets undervalued even more. I have to be thankful when I joined TikTok and I was starting to post art on there, I never really had to deal with as much negativity as some younger artists go through. Now, I'm a bit older than your average artist on TikTok, and I developed a bit of a thicker skin when it comes to stuff like this. But even so, it doesn't make it okay to just harass folks. That just leads to people being scared to make changes or take risks because they don't know how it's going to be received. It's already a huge thing in terms of body image and mental health when people feel like they're the outsider. They don't want to go their own path because they're scared of how others will react to them. How will the art field flourish if people are scared to take creative risks? Then we'll run into the same issue as AI, with everything feeling and looking the same. I mean, sometimes a lot of younger artists are just drawing to have fun. They aren't really looking to make a new masterpiece. But they want to share what they like to the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are open to being attacked or harassed. In an artist's life, it is natural to have highs and lows in terms of your drawing ability. With social media, we think that progress is a constantly upward trend, but that's not necessarily the case. In my example, I've been trying to learn digital art for a few years now, and I'm still quite new as far as learning all the different tools and what I can use and not. I know that if I don't do digital art for a couple weeks, my art style is going to look a lot stiffer. My biggest thing is that I wasn't always consistent when doing digital art, and that's what's impeded my progress so far. As I mentioned before, I took a bit of a hiatus in posting artwork of any kind, so getting back into it, I was a bit rusty. My art wasn't as creative as it used to be, but that was okay. My life is moving in a different direction now, and I'm ready to take my art along with it. Social media can keep us in such a static mindset that it can be hard to understand our own growth. We constantly compare ourselves to others, but they don't live the same lives that we do, and we often get lost and feel burnt out if we can't reach those goals the same way that they did. Art is something that I always wanted to do, even if it's not in a technically professional sense. I myself won't let a rude comment make me quit from doing art because I've been pretty much doing it for over half my life. But I can't imagine how a younger artist feels if they're constantly being compared to or judged just for wanting to draw stuff that they enjoy. Creativity is technically supposed to be fun or a way to express our emotions. And apart from harming anyone, I don't really see a wrong way in doing that. Younger artists worry about art style, but art style is something that comes from within. While we can be inspired by others, you are ultimately giving it your own meaning. If you're trying to conform to someone else's standard, then you're always going to feel miserable. Sure, not every sketch is going to be perfect, but it is worth it if you want to continue to learn. So many artists get scared of working on their own projects because of outside approval, and many interesting stories aren't told just because of that. I've said it once and I'll say it again, if there's something that you want to draw or create, I say just do it. Don't wait for anyone else's approval. If you want to start a comic, do it. If you want to draw your characters together, do that as well. Don't let anyone else negatively affect your own art. Anything outside of constructive criticism is just plainly unnecessary and should be disregarded. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say as far as that's concerned. I promise next video I'll be a lot more positive, but this was something that was really getting to me, and I really had to make my voice heard here. On the positive note, I want to create a community where artists can express themselves without having to worry about being judged. One of my longer-term goals that I have is to have a place where people can be creative. Because understandably, I know that there's communities where that stuff just isn't taught or seen as important. I myself have gone through that. I feel like people in general would be more empathetic if they had a place to express their thoughts and feelings. I feel like they wouldn't turn to such anger and divisiveness. I would love to be an art instructor to help those who come from less fortunate means be able to do art, or even have it as a possible career front. We can't rely on these big social media platforms to help propagate artists. We've tried for many years and we still can't find the greatest website to post our work on. So instead of looking to them for answers, we need to start in our own communities. Or at least that's just my goal. I can't speak for yours. But what are some of your creative goals that you want to work on in the future? Let me know down in the comments, and if you made it this long, you might as well leave a like, as well as subscribe to my channel. I try to post a new long-form video every week, but I do also stream now here on YouTube as well as on Twitch. I'll leave my socials down in the description if you're interested in seeing what I'm up to. I have so many things planned as far as future content is concerned. I just started to play Persona 4 Golden on stream, and I intend to do multiple live streams of me playing the game. I'm also planning to do some horror games for the month of October, so if you have any suggestions for horror games, also leave that down below in the comments or in my YouTube community. Other things that I'm working on too is a personal website. I currently use Card, but I do want something a bit more as I continue to grow. And I'm also thinking about making my own Discord server, so stay tuned for announcements regarding that as well. I'll likely make another video for that, but I'll also talk about it on Twitter and YouTube communities, of course. While I'm a small channel, I am so thankful for all the support that I've been receiving, and since I've only been doing it for a few months, it's impressive to see how far I've came already. And I'm excited to see where this journey of mine takes me, and I hope you guys are really looking forward to seeing more from me. I might not be the most consistent, but I genuinely love what I'm doing. So until my next video or live stream, goodbye and take care.